Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Charlie Star, and today we're going to be talking about the Earth signs, which are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. So real quick about the Earth element. The Earth element is the most dense of the elements, and it is the most concrete and unchanging plane, this shared reality of the physical world. And this is what the Earth element is. And the Earth has a quality of maintaining energy. So with that comes the qualities of consistency, of longevity, of practicality, and sensuality, because it is our five physical senses that allow us to participate in the physical world, as well as having a human body, which is, I'll get into, that's involved with the sign of Virgo. But it all has to do with this physical world and this physical reality. And one thing that I do want to add is that a lot of people that are really into like New Age, or just even people that are really spiritual, there's this perspective that the spiritual is superior to the physical. And I completely disagree. All of these planes are interconnected, and the physical plane actually is a conscious plane, just like the spiritual plane is a conscious plane, the mental plane is, and the emotions are also part of consciousness. So the earth element and the physical world is also divine. It's not just the spiritual plane. The physical plane is just as divine and conscious as the rest of reality. Okay, so we are going to start with Taurus. So I'm going to go in order of the year. So Taurus is the fixed earth sign, and it is the second month of the zodiac year. So it's this, Aries is the first month of spring, and then Taurus is the second month of spring. So with it being a fixed earth sign that's in the spring, you can kind of grasp already some of the qualities of this sign. So Taurus is the sign for Taurus, or the totem for Taurus, I guess you could say, is the bull. And the bull is a peaceful animal. And the bull also gives us, the cow, the bovine, I should say, gives us life, right? Because especially in the United States, we eat a lot of beef. Like cattle is a huge source of nourishment for us as a human species in America today. So that's one thing. Before that, though, and in addition to that, we do drink the cow's milk. And so it's kind of sad what's happened to the cow, honestly. I mean, like anyway, I don't really want to get into like the ethics of what's going on in our country when it comes to eating beef, but the cow has been a symbol for thousands of years of Mother Earth and her like blessings of nurturing us through all the fruits that she provides. And so it's just kind of like sad, but also still applicable, how the cow has come to embody that nourishment for us in a whole like new way, you know, in the United States. So actually, it's a very good symbol of how we've been exploiting resources, the way we've exploited the cow. So Taurus has to do with resources of the earth. And in like a lot of ways, Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Venus is a planet that represents love, harmony, beauty, and also resources. But to me, Taurus kind of like shares, in my opinion, shares rulership with our own planet. It doesn't really work out zodiacally because you don't see the earth moving around up in the sky to interpret it, because we're actually living on this planet. But to me, like Taurus is like the earth, the Mother Earth element, because Taurus rules like all of the plants, and I mean, arguably the animals belong to Virgo because they are mobile, but definitely all the plants, the plant kingdom belongs to Taurus. So Another thing about Taurus is that although it's linked so closely to the earth and how Mother Earth provides for us in botanical ways, and so is also associated very much with food, because of our current day like method of what represents resources to us is money. And so another thing Taurus really can represent in our modern era is money. How this might manifest to somebody who is a Taurus. Okay, Venusian, the beauty of Venus. Taurus, like honestly, I've noticed that Taurus people, like Taurus rising, or even Taurus sun, they have a very solid look to them. They kind of have like a earthy vibe, if that makes sense, where they just have like a natural beauty. Like they don't need a lot of makeup. They don't usually wear like a lot of glitter. They're going to have like a lot of them don't even need to wear cover up. Like they'll have really good skin. Venus rules the skin. And so I know this is like a generalization and people are so much more complex than one sign that they are, but that is one thing that I've noticed with Taurus is they just have a very natural, raw, and sort of like solid beauty and aura about them. Like a lot of Tauruses that I've met, I feel like, were you a tree in your past life? Like they just have this natural beauty. And that's the Venus quality and the earth element being combined there. So what else about Taurus? Taurus, I've noticed some Taurus are like extremely, like this kind of sounds like we think of materialistic as sort of bad in our society, but they are sensual beings, I will say, because like the earth, Mother Earth rules the five physical senses of sight, touch, taste, smell, feel, tactile feel. So they're sensual people, they're tactile people. The beauty of their home, the value of their home, their value of their car, their value, the quality of their food, the sensual way in which they may engage with a lover. It's all very important to the Taurus experience. So another thing that I've noticed is that like I've seriously never met a Taurus that didn't have a green thumb. They are like all gardeners. They whisper to the plants and the plants just, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more to it, but maybe it just has to do with one of the things that Taurus values, which is the resources of the earth. So Taurus is associated with a lot of the time like environmentalism. So I'm kind of describing qualities of some people that might have like a Taurus rising or a Taurus sun, but Taurus and other placements in somebody's chart can manifest different ways. For example, if Taurus is like their midheaven or their 10th house, which has to do with their career, a lot of the time these people are very passionate about the environment and about sustainable ways in which we like handle our resources and respect the earth. So I have seen this a lot is like people with Taurus in their career houses, they become, you know, the spokesperson or whatever it is that their skills are for environmental concerns. They say that Taurus is stubborn. They'll say that about any fixed sign, but honestly, I don't know if I could really agree with that. With that, it hasn't really been like too much my experience. I will say they're not wishy-washy people though. Like Taurus is consistent. They are trustworthy. You can count on a Taurus to be authentic, to be honest in general, right? Everybody's more complex than one sign, but in general, Taurus is very reliable. They're very steady. When you think of like a cow, their totem animal, it's like the cow is a very peaceful creature and it's also a very slow moving creature. So don't push your Taurus friends. That's what I will that's what I will say. Like let them go at their own pace because they're doing it right. Like they're going to do it right. So don't mess with their process. Don't try to make them be an air sign. Don't try to make them be a mutable sign. Don't try and, change who they are, because that's probably going to be the best way to turn a peaceful cow in the field into like a raging bull, right? So Taurus, slow to anger, but most likely you want to get out of the way if they do get angry. You got to give Taurus the respect. Okay, Virgo. Sorry, my legs are getting, just need to stretch. Virgo is a mutable earth sign. Mutable is just the modality, which means that it's adaptable and changing and flexible. So it sounds at first like an oxymoron, because earth is this very like strong, unmoving sort of manifested material. It's the physical. And we don't think of like that being something that moves around. Like when we just talked about Taurus, and Taurus is like, the plants, and the plants don't move around. But there is something that does move around that's made of earth. Anybody? It's you. You are your body. Virgo would rule all the animal kingdom, because we are mobile, animated earth. Venus rules Taurus, but what rules mutable earth? Mercury. Mercury is an air planet and rules the intellect and the mind. So what you have with Virgo is when the intellect animates the physical. Mind-body connection. Mind-body connection is very, very strong in two places. One, in the brain, the cerebral cortex, and all of the nervous system. But two, and I'm sure you've heard people talk about this, how the gut has a brain of its own. So Virgo also rules the gut and the digestive system. So what is the expression of Virgo? Virgo has a lot of archetypes that will help to show you kind of how Virgo expresses itself. The first one is the scientist. Why? Because this is about the mind applying itself to the physical world. The mind observes and collects the data. Data is a mental thing. And so it's information. It's information collecting, and it's observing the natural world. And then through, the scientific method, that is how the mind learns about the physical world. So Virgo is the sign of scientist and scientific thought across the board. So huge, that's a huge field in and of its own right. So the other thing is that it will also have a huge impact on healthcare, because again, this is the mind applying itself to the human body and the systems of the human body, and applying the mind to understanding the human body and understanding how it functions, and then seeking to fix it. So a function of Virgo is basically the ability to analyze with the mind, make observations, and then seek to make physical changes. So a lot of Virgo's skills have to do with fixing things and making things more efficient. And this is like an incredibly like what our culture will call like intelligent. I think there's many types of intelligence, but intelligence in sort of like the mainstream understanding of the word is about Virgo, right? Because how do we measure intelligence is how quickly and accurately can your mind observe information, pick up on what's important, and then how to manipulate it to fix it or perfect it or make it better, make it more efficient, make it healthier, whatever it is that the goal of the mind is to do with the physical world. So, you can see Virgo thought kind of everywhere you go. They're going to be fixing your cars. They're going to be taking care of you in the hospital. They're going to be your workout and nutrition coaches. They're everywhere. And another thing about Virgo is this is also considered the sign of the hermit. Like Virgo people, people who have a lot of Virgo suns, Virgo risings. This is what I have noticed with a lot of Virgo is a few things. One, Mercury rules Virgo. The nervous system, it's called the nervous system. It's prone to nervousness. So there's a little bit of a propensity toward anxiety. Also, I know some Virgos to whom the human body is very central to who they are, and that can translate into what they do for their profession or not. So, like I know a Virgo, actually a few Virgos who are dancers. I also know a number of Virgos who have had their health and fitness journey be like a really big thing for them. Either they have to be on a specific diet, because Virgo can be very particular about what it can and cannot tolerate in the digestive system. So like allergies, food intolerances, issues of weight and getting their health in check is also like a big deal for Virgo, because there's such a strong connection between the mind and the body that their bodies become very, very sensitive to whatever energies they're around, whatever thoughts they're having, whatever energy they're ingesting, they can be very sensitive to it. Another thing about like people with a lot of Virgo in their chart is they are analytical and they're problem solvers. So the Virgo energy is looking at something, observing it, and then trying to fix it, right? So sometimes they'll do that to you. And sometimes that's not like solicited or wanted, right? So Virgo often has to learn to work with somebody in a way that is going to be well received, and that can vary, of course, based on what other things they have going on in their chart. I've noticed like a lot of Virgos, I haven't found them to be too critical of people, honestly, but so it's almost like I wanted to say like, no, they're not like that. And then like the Virgos in my life will be like, yeah, actually, yeah, we are like that. You know, maybe like we're thinking it, but we're not going to say it or something like that. So, so yeah, they're discerning and they're always observing things and always seeing what could be better. And that can be a very helpful thing. So a lot of time Virgos can be considered like whistleblowers, because they're problem solvers and they're going to notice the problems and want to fix them. And sometimes people don't want to fix the problem. They would rather just ignore the problem. Okay, so there's another thing about Virgo that's super critical and important I haven't even started to talk about. And that is that another archetype of Virgo is the not the hermit. I already mentioned that. Another archetype of Virgo is the servant. So Virgo is a sign of service. And a lot of the time, like the way that Virgo does this is, of course, in a very Virgo way. They're noticing what the needs are. They're analyzing the situation. They're seeing what could be done or what needs to be done. They're very, very good at recognizing needs and then addressing those needs and meeting those needs. And, you know, depending on the placement of Virgo, like Virgo rising is going to be better at noticing the needs. The Virgo sun, so they're more going to embody the spirit of the servant, whereas like a Virgo rising is more going to embody the analytical part of Virgo, the mental part of Virgo. A Virgo moon is going to be more in tune with the servant archetype being embodied as the nurturer, because the sun is like the moon is like our nourished and our emotional center. And so a Virgo moon, they're going to be meeting somebody's emotional needs through physical means, if that makes sense. Okay, so finally, our last earth sign. Our last earth sign is actually a cardinal earth sign, so it's earth that's like a goal-oriented earth sign, and it is Capricorn. Capricorn, you guys. I feel like Capricorn is like maybe one of, I could do a video, like a whole video of like the most like misunderstood signs. And I feel like Capricorn is one of them, because here's the thing is like Capricorn has come to like mean for a lot of people like this like ambitious, hardworking, like driven sign, right? Like this is the person that like climbs the corporate ladder and is like everybody's boss. And there's some truth to be said for that. But Capricorn is not all about just like physical achievement for their own self. One thing that a lot of people don't understand about Capricorn is that Capricorn is the sign of tradition, yes. And I think like one thing I've heard a lot of people say about Capricorn being associated with tradition is that they're going to not question the status quo. They're just going to climb the traditional ladder, so to speak, like whatever tradition has set out for them to, like what steps to take, then they're going to take those steps. I don't think that's always true, though I have seen that. To me, what Capricorn is a lot about is legacy. The reason why they're have this like these physical goals of achievement is so that they have something to give the next generation. So it's really like it's all about legacy. It's all about lineage. But like where Cancer, if you watch my water signs video, link it over here. Cancer is associated with lineage backwards, like where we came from and our like ancestry. Capricorn is concerned with the lineage moving forward, like what is being given to the next generation. And Capricorn really wants to give as much as possible to the next generation. They want to set a good example. They want to have systems in place for the next generation to succeed. Of course, every Capricorn is going to be different. We are not just one sign, but this is what Capricorn is about. It's upholding these traditions in order to pass to the next generation. So it's a very, very, very generous sign. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't like notice about Capricorn, because Capricorn does set goals for themselves, and they also will have a pretty clear-cut idea in general of how they're going to get there. So they're not just going to like, it's kind of difficult for Capricorn to like have a goal and then just sort of like feel their way into it or feel the energy. Like, okay, I'm just gonna like let go and let God, right? Like I'm just gonna have faith that it's gonna like come to me. Like, no, Capricorn is kind of like an overachiever in the sense that like they're gonna go above and beyond what is like the expected, you know, what is expected of them, what the expected narrative is. So like, even if you have like a Capricorn who's a witch, right? Like a lot of people would say like, oh no, Capricorn wouldn't do that because it's not like traditional. It's not the mainstream tradition. That's not true at all. Like there's plenty of traditions in witchcraft, but like if you tell a Capricorn witch, I feel like, please, I have Capricorn friends, please comment down below in the comment box whether this is true about you or not. But this is what I've seen, this is what I think, is that like you're gonna say, like if you watch a video and the video is saying this is how you got to do a spell, you got to use this much of this much of that, this much of this, it's gonna be Capricorn that wants to like follow it, wants to understand, like they want to understand why you're doing the things that you're doing, but they also want to follow it exactly. So they might come back at you with questions of like, well, how much of this, or what about the timing of that? Like they want to do it right. They want to do it perfectly, and they may be attracted to like spells that have like a history or like a cultural story, because again, lineage, like Capricorn loves having a tradition to pass down and a lineage to like give to somebody else. Okay, another thing about Capricorn, symbolized by the goat, but it's actually also the sea goat and the unicorn. So I one time watched this like, it's like 2 hour, I wish I could remember the name of it, but it was like a 2 hour long video about Capricorn. And it was like describing the phases of Capricorn evolution. So first of all, Capricorn starts off as a goat and they're climbing the mountain. Okay, so that tells you a number of things about Capricorn. One, slow and steady wins the race. They're ruled by Saturn, so they work hard. Yes, that stereotype is true. They work so hard, and they're also willing to commit. Saturn is all about longevity and, reaping the fruit of your labor. So there's something about Capricorn that is generally not afraid of commitment, and they're not afraid of putting in like the time that it's going to take to like get the best result. So that is like your mountain goat. And this mountain goat is like climbing the mountain. But at a certain point, the mountain goat starts to use their intuition, and they grow like a mermaid tail. And I wish I could remember this whole story, but anyway, like that's the sea goat, where it's this goat that has like a mermaid tail, and it's kind of talking about how like Capricorn develops this like intuition where they become softer as they get older, because they may be born with a little bit of like a Saturnian mindset, depending on where their Capricorn placement is, where it's very fixed. And so, unlike, water sign, or especially like a Pisces, where everything is so flexible and malleable, like to Capricorn, things can be more black and white. It can be more right and wrong, at least when they're young. And then as they get older and they realize sort of like the ocean of life, they grow a mermaid tail, which I think is cool. And then finally, Capricorn gets to the top of the mountain, and they've like achieved everything. And at that point, now you're getting close to the Aquarius energy, where it's like they've achieved it. They've done it all, and they've seen it all. And at that point, they realize, like, and I don't think it's always linear, like just like this, but they see that the achievements of the physical world is not enough, and the achievements for themselves is not enough. This is where the lineage part comes in, because they realize the importance of community and the importance of their relationships around them, and so much more than maybe like a young or immature Capricorn mentality would have. And that's when they become, you guessed it, a unicorn. So Capricorn, you guys are unicorns. Like the person who has done it all, seen it all, achieved it all, and yet has like knowledge is one thing, but wisdom is a different thing. And that is a thing that belongs to Capricorn, because you guys have worked so hard to master whatever it is that you're mastering. And you, along the way, accumulate wisdom to where then you can embody that father figure that's ready to pass down for the next generation. Like you're able to be that wise elder that can give really good advice to young people, to people that are like not as far along in the path as you. And I think that is just such a beautiful expression of Capricorn. Okay, I mean, I'm trying to think what else about Capricorn. But I feel like everything else about Capricorn, you guys could kind of sort of glean from that information and apply, like understand, how it applies to the different Capricorn people in your life. If you're a Capricorn, please let me know what you think of this, because I do have a few Capricorn friends, and I've never like discussed with them their Capricorn nature. So I would love to hear from you guys about your opinion about Capricorn. Okay, and that that finishes up our Earth signs in the Zodiac belt. That is Taurus is our fixed Earth sign. Virgo is our mutable Earth sign, and then Capricorn is our cardinal Earth sign. So thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please hit like, subscribe to my channel, and I will be doing next the fire and the air signs. So links